Welcome to Piano Inspires podcast, celebrating pianists, teachers, and innovators as they share their inspiring stories about the transformative power of music.
Are you ready to take your piano journey to the next level? Introducing the pianoinspires.com subscription. With the pianoinspires.com subscription, you'll gain access to hundreds of teaching videos and webinars by experts in our field. This wide variety of topics is perfect for teachers, students, new professionals, advanced performers, and amateur pianists. These videos will inspire and guide you every step of the way. But that's not all. Your subscription also includes access to Piano Magazine. Dive into each issue packed with the most dynamic content, expert interviews, music, and book reviews, and more to keep you connected with the piano community. Check out pianoinspires.com today and unlock a world of piano teaching, learning, and performing. For more information, visit pianoinspires.com/subscribe and use coupon code podcast15 and subscribe today for less than $3 per month. Thanks for listening to the Piano Inspires podcast and enjoy the episode.
Hello, I'm Andrea McAlister, and I'm the Director of Digital Programming for the Francis Clark Center. And I am delighted to be joined by Leila Viss today. She is known for her innovating teaching methods, incorporating technology and creativity. Her imaginative instructional resources inspire students and teachers. She's the past coordinator for the University of Denver's Piano Preparatory Program and offers composiums that inspire teachers to nurture their creative voice through composition and arranging. She is internationally known for her innovative and engaging presentations and is a longtime church organist and pianist. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us about your journey to become such an inspiring leader in the field of piano pedagogy. Can you tell us about how you just came to music in the first place?
Well, my mother was a longtime piano teacher, and she was teaching elementary school in fifth grade, I believe. And she was teaching fifth graders, I should say, and then would come home and teach piano. And we had 2 pianos in the basement, and everyone came to her. And finally, she said, you know what, I have to be done. And I went to another teacher, but I always loved it. I also played violin, flute, but I always, piano rose to the top. And I didn't know what to do for college. And I thought, well, I guess I'll do piano, and really didn't have a direction. And I grew up in a community where everyone plays piano. Most everyone played the violin because we had a strong string program. Everyone played a musical instrument. So I was not someone who stood out in the crowd. It was just, oh, there's another pianist. And there was a lot of people who were much better at sight reading and playing than I was. I always remember, there's the Julie and the Kims, and, there was just really outstanding people in our community. So I'm saying that because it's really interesting that now you're saying these things about me. And I think maybe because it didn't come easily to me as it did maybe to others, but I loved it enough to keep going. And then my husband found a job in Denver, and then I thought, well, okay, what am I going to do here? Oh, I can get a degree in piano pedagogy. That sounds like fun. I come from a family where my mom and dad are both professors. My dad is a math professor, or was, and my mother was an art professor. And so teaching and always came somewhat naturally, I guess, to me. And my mother was always known for her amazing art ed classes. So she knew how to teach other people how to explain art to students. So maybe I got part of that, those genes. So I'll blame my genetics just a little bit. And
credit.
There you go.
Credit.
Yes, I'll credit. Yes, there you go. And then, I got my master's degree, and it was interesting. I was burnt out. And then I realized, so that means I got to start my workday at 3. I really don't want to be doing this at 3 o'clock. And so I had to really rethink after I got my master's, do I really want to do this? And I think I was so steeped in all the classical music, and I thought I always had to listen to classical music. No one ever suggested that what I hear on the radio, maybe I should play at the piano. Like, they were just completely different things. And I would say the turning point for me was soon after I got that degree. someone handed me a chord chart at our church and said, "Hey, Leila, can you play with the band?" And I was shattered because I had no idea what to do. So I teach out of the shame that I felt from that experience. And so I never want my students to have that embarrassment that I did. So that was a turning point for me. And I learned a lot from that. And then I didn't necessarily embrace it right away, but then for some reason I was getting students that had an amazing ear or, could improvise. And I felt like, well, I have to stay ahead of them or at least know what to do with them.
Exactly.
And then it just so happened it was an NCKP conference, and I'm thinking it was 2010. I think our 3 little guys were out of diapers. Mommy had to get away, and like, maybe I'll go to a conference.
Yes, that's a great use of time.
And I happened to go to a happy hour and sat next to Bradley Sowash. And so I was like, that 12-bar blues, I had done a little bit of that in my master's degree. And so he wrote out the 12-bar blues boxes on a napkin. And we both wish I would have saved that napkin because that was kind of a turning point. That's when we started, I don't know, we got to know each other. And then he needed someone to help him plan something for MTNA and like, hey, would you like to help me? And then we ended up developing the 88 Creative Keys workshops and webinars for 6 years. And so, man, rubbing shoulders with someone who was such a different pianist than I was, and a different way of teaching. We both really, we rubbed each other just in the right way so that it blended really nicely. So that constant awareness of a different way of teaching really made me a different person as well. So yes, out of reaction to my own embarrassment and not applying the theory that I knew.
Yeah, I see this theme of curiosity in you. And I know I also have parents who are educators, and it's that instilling the curiosity where you didn't shut down and say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I couldn't do that. I'll go back to my little box." And I know the world of classical music, what that means to most pianists as they are going up through their degrees or as they are developing as young musicians. That experience, do you feel that was a turning point where you thought, oh, wait a minute, I need to branch out?
Yeah, I think it was a mix of being thrown in the fire when I got a church job. And I landed a church job because I played organ, because that's what you do at this college that I went to. What's called Dordt University now instead of Dordt College. But they had this huge tracker organ, Dutch organ. And, why are you not going to learn how to play organ? Because it was such a magnificent instrument. So then I ended up getting a church job, which I still have. So I don't know how many years it is, but being forced to play every week and show up and play through those mistakes. And I remember getting, a stack of choir music at first and man, practicing my socks off, making sure I could play them. And now I'm like, bring it on. Let me see it now. And I don't, but those don't just come overnight. It's because you just work your craft over and over and over and over. So I would say that was a turning point for me as well, is that I gained that confidence of just go for it. And then I was playing only in a traditional setting. And then our church happens to also have a contemporary service. And so I was interested in crossing over. And then I connected with the choir director then, and he was a longtime band and worship leader who was learned in the garage, so to speak. And so he taught me his skills, and that was a turning point. Again, we ended up writing a course, How to Play Piano in a Band, because I said, Drew, help me codify this so I can help others do the same. And so it's the experience of having being able to play every week and then being able to cross over. And now when I play for the contemporary service, I make myself only listen. I do not seek out any lead sheets. I don't want the melody. I listen, figure out what the piano part is. Of course, we have a chord chart, so I know what chords. But now suddenly I sit down and now I feel confident doing that. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I do say that the more exposure you give yourself to these opportunities, the more you will learn.
You mentioned that when you first started, you would pour through the scores and make sure that you were, 100% ready to play at the next Sunday service. But now you don't need that as much because you have the experience. How much of that is also let going of that perfectionism a little bit? Because when we start anything new, there's, like you said, you felt shame because you couldn't do this and you didn't want to feel that again. And now you realize that it's not perfectionism necessarily that is going to be remembered or appreciated or isn't going to give the members of the church the experience that you want to give them. How did you let go of some of that?
Well, I call myself a recovering perfectionist. I don't think I'll ever get rid of that. My choir director now, he says, I never count mistakes. I'm like, I still do. I will go home like, okay, well, you messed up there, whatever. But there's two definitions of perfectionism for me. When expectations don't match up to reality. And the other one is fear of failure. And so that word fear really sticks out in my mind. And I think that, that shame was bred out of fear. Like, oh my goodness, people are going to find out that, wait a minute, do you really play piano if you can't even do this? Those kind of things. So I think coming to terms with being okay and the opposite of perfect is good enough. And so that's what I've told myself is that, right now, you are the person that can do this the best in this situation. And so show up and do your best and things will happen. Let me see. What was the beginning of your question again? I don't know if I'm answering it or not.
Well, I think you did. It's the process of realizing that perfectionism isn't going to be what you're remembered by. That it's not.
There you go. Yeah,
it
doesn't serve you.
It
used to be kind of a saintly thing to say. Oh, I'm a perfectionist, and now the Brene Browns of this world are telling us that no, that's not good. The one thing that I noticed that no one ever taught me was it's okay to omit notes as well. You don't have to get everything. And the minute I released myself from the score, I'm like, you know what? Get what you can. That's what I meant by bringing it on. When I see a orchestral reduction, I am not trying to get everything. I am trying to get what I can. And then also my knowledge of chords and being able to see a chord in a score has helped me so much in my faking my way through when needed. So, it just continues. It's a spiral curriculum. Right? We never stop learning. And I feel like I've gotten to the point where a lot of my skills are colliding in a nice way. And now I'm building on that and sharing it. And so my goal is, I want my students to be the poster child of who I wish I was. And I saw Caitlin last year, she graduated and she was playing with a mega church and a band. She had memorized Bach and Chopin and Beethoven. And she was like, yes, that's really who I wanted to be, So I feel like, okay, I've done my job. I am now grooming students to what I hope, they can all become at some point.
Yes. Yeah. And I do want to go back to that. But it seems as though 20 years ago, this idea of playing pop music and playing from a lead sheet or playing for choirs, churches, bands, things like that weren't talked about as much as standard foundational pedagogy. Have you seen a bigger shift in the last 5 years or so around this topic? And how much work do we still have to do?
Oh, it's majorly shifted. I would say it's a completely different mindset for teaching in my circle. I don't know what academics are like. You would probably know better. A lot of it had to do also with Philip Johnston's book, which I read, and I'm not going to be able to tell you the title, but it has everything to do with how to have a dazzling studio. He's got this big, long name for it. I think you know what I'm talking about. But that really revolutionized how I thought about things too, because going back to like, do I really want to teach? I read his book and I thought, you know what? If I'm going to do this job, I'm going to have fun. This is my business. So I don't have to have anybody telling me what to do. I can figure that out for myself. So I think that's when I started doing the off-bench things. And from day one, I was always integrating technology because I had to go visit other people's studios and see what they were doing. And two longtime MTNA members, Phyllis Pfeiffer for one, and Elaine Wagner, they both used computers and computer programs alongside their teaching. And this was back in the day, where there is a blinking cursor. You put in the hard disk, like we're talking a long time ago. Yes. And then CD-ROMs came along and that was better. And then when the iPad came, that really, again, I'm using overusing that word, revolutionized my teaching again. But the point being, I decided I was going to have fun teaching. And actually I just learned that we don't have fun, we feel fun. And
I love that.
Isn't that good? Catherine Price has an amazing TED Talk on fun. Okay. And we can have artificial fun and we can have the feeling of fun. And I think when I brought that feeling of fun to my teaching, then of course that's going to rub off on your students as well.
And so they can feel fun too, and the joy of making music. Yeah. Well, I was poking around your website because I saw composiums and I thought, what are composiums? But I printed out your mission because I love how you say this. So straight from your website, it says, my mission as a musician and teacher, 1, to equip students with skills that will turn them into lifelong musicians. And 2, to equip teachers with tech-savvy and clever tools that inspire their lessons. As life would have it, I found the need for 2 mantras, take courage and genuine over perfect. So let's start with your students. You give them this feel of fun. They can feel fun. You mentioned a student who was playing Beethoven and Chopin, but then also playing in a band. How much work do you think it takes now in the age where everybody's so busy and they've got all these other commitments to help them feel fun?
I think it's a matter of the spontaneity. And my students arrive and they don't necessarily know what's up with Miss Leila this week. They just don't know because I'll probably have some kind of surprise. I do, I don't know, cup dances, or I'll have a lead sheet. Like I have these 2 girls who come together. I usually have students that come 2 at a time because one is working off bench and one is on. And I said, hey, we're working on this lead sheet. How about if one of you vamps and the other of you plays the melody? And then how about if you add a few little fill notes in the melody, and then suddenly they had this beautiful duet. And now I'm having them, or they wanted to play a duet. And I said, well, how about if you learn the same piece together? And then how about if you craft your own duet from it? And so there's always this, what if you, and I think when you open that box and let them realize that, okay, you can play what's on the score, but you also have permission to play away from the score and add to it. That gives that element of curiosity, is what you were talking about, and also that feeling of fun and also ownership.
Yes.
And I think the more I let students decide what is going to happen in the lesson, even though I'm really pushing my agenda, they will come back for more.
And I really think that goes back to the take courage part. Well, and the perfection part as well, because it takes a lot of courage, I think. And speaking from a mother of a 13 and 15-year-old right now,
You
where
have lots of courage right now.
where it's the pressure to be perfect and the pressure to the social pressures. There is a lot of courage that has to happen every day to just walk in that school, but the courage it takes to just play at the piano, because there can be mistakes, or I might not do this right. So it sounds like you are modeling such a wonderful, courageous environment where students can feel free to not be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. What's fun is I've had Ethan since, I don't know, he was 7 or 8, and he is totally into chords. He loves chords and harmony. And I love it that I've groomed a harmony geek, and he is so happy playing with the band at his church. And my goal is to keep him playing, and we will do whatever it takes. Ethan, do you like this? I really, really work hard on finding things that he likes to keep him there, because he is such a happy pianist, and I think that is the goal, is giving them the direction that they want to take. And then I have others that really want to play in, a festival and want to work hard on memorizing a piece, and they want the classics. Yes. So I'm so thankful for my classical roots, so that I can take people along that discipline. And that has shown me so much of, what's necessary to play the piano. But man, if I didn't have those crossover skills, it just wouldn't be nearly as fun.
And it is about feeling fun.
It is.
So the second part of the mission is about giving teachers tech savvy tools. Do you find that I would imagine it takes even more courage for adults, learners, to come on board with this idea of I'm going to be courageous and this is going to be hard. But so you started using a lot of technology. I'm going to say fairly early on.
Oh, yes.
So how much courage did that take for you? Or was it just, I'm going to have fun with this. This is fun.
And I didn't answer your question about courageous, or the idea of being having my students take courage. But I think that's when you're happy doing something and you're comfortable with those skills, it's maybe you need courage, but you need that curiosity. So I think they work hand in hand almost. And so same thing with the technology. I was so impressed with these teachers because they were doing something beyond the piano bench and giving them that extra reinforcement. So, that didn't really scare me about adding technology into my program, although it was interesting because I remember I was very happy with my flip phone. And my husband said, Leila, someday you're going to send an email to parents. And that's going to be like this note that goes over the airways. I'm like, So it is interesting how things have changed.
Drastically. Yes.
Right. And, I'm just going to be honest. There were some days that I screamed at that computer screen because I didn't know what was happening. And, you reboot and like, why is that CD-ROM stuck in there? So I only liked technology that I could understand and use. I don't feel myself as being a leader in it because I only use the thing. I hold back. Let's say it that way. I'll just check to see what other people are doing. And then, when that looks accessible to me, then I will jump in and use it. So I would say, yes, was I courageous? I maybe was courageous, but I wasn't a pioneer leading the way.
You were an early adopter.
There we go. Yes, that's good.
We can say that. Yeah. But I think, as we know, technology is a tool. Pedagogy, the teaching, the communication with the students is the most important part of that. So I think the accessibility that you were looking for, do you think it was just, I need this to enhance and not put a barrier between me and my students?
I would say at first I wanted to be relevant. Maybe it was more of just, I want a fresh approach to things. I don't want someone to come in and like oh, we're doing that again. So I think that's why I have all these different teaching tools, because you never know what it's going to take for someone to make it stick. Let's put it that way, And so if it's an app for someone, great. If it's a manipulative that I have for someone else, great. If it's playing their theory, whatever. But I need to have, I don't know why I like the name or the number 7, but I need at least 7 different ways to explain every concept. And technology was really my teaching assistant in a lot of ways. I hired that app to, hey, let's just reinforce note names. So, those kind of things. And the more you can customize an app and gear it right towards that child and make them walk out of the lesson feeling better about where middle C, D, E, F, and G are on the grand staff, the better off they're going to be as well.
Exactly. So then fast forward maybe, and you mentioned the 88 keys and the website that you had developed and programs with Bradley Sowash. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how that developed?
Yeah, I think that was because we both knew there was a need for something like this. People needed hands-on immersive experience at the piano. And what we learned was that what we asked them to do was they immediately could not do because they were so hooked to the page. And so it was a wake-up call for us too. I've learned to never make assumptions when I teach, but I still make that mistake. And so that's what we saw is that, oh my, okay, so we have to really make this accessible so that people want to come back, so that they don't, talking again about fear of failure, we can't let them fail. So we have to equip them with the skills, break it down so that they can then pass it along to their students. So that's where that came from. And then 6 years, and I had enough. He was getting tired too, but it was so much planning. You're into that planning mode all the time. It was so much work. And I don't know, I have a little story where Michael Hyatt wrote this book, Free to Focus, and he has a freedom compass. And he was talking about your ultimate goal is for your freedom compass to be in the desire zone. And my compass was no longer in the desire zone. Yeah. And that was, a great sign for me. Like, you know what? Then it's time to be done. So I think that's one of the things that I'm learning too, is that, you can start a project, there's going to be ripple effects, and then it can be done. And then it's neat to see how things have moved forward since then. That's what I think what I mean by, things have changed significantly as far as piano and pedagogy and expectations. And there are going to be people that probably aren't going to be teaching Bach and Beethoven in their piano studios and are going to be very successful in that.
Yes. And students who will come not wanting to learn Bach and Beethoven.
So I think it's, we're serving the customer. Just like Starbucks will make my drink just like I want it. I think that is what's changing in the music world. And so now to answer your questions about, what that has led me to is I feel like music is my inspiration now. And it's the making music, and it's the music that is coming from me that is inspirational. And so that really spoke to me. We had a horrible event in our family, and I found that coming to my piano and playing, and then also just playing my own things really spoke to my soul. And like, I feel like I could just be like on a conversion evangelical revival movement. Like, listen, people, we are not only teaching music, we are helping someone's soul. It really was a powerful coping mechanism for me.
Yes. Well, and I don't know how much you want to get into this, but I know your son did have a terrible accident. And I believe music was also a very healing part of his recovery too, was it not?
Well, he loved piano beforehand. And I have to just say that he and I at the piano were not very good. So any of you parents who are trying to teach your children, I know.
I tried that.
I know. Well, and really he learned despite me. He also had a fantastic ear. Now if I look back at it, I probably would have done something completely different. He was an out of sync child as well. And so there were issues with reading that were always hard for him.
Mm-hmm.
But man, his ear was so strong. And then he went off to college and he always played piano. Yet he would go find an empty practice room and still play. And then he got a keyboard and, and he wanted to play the classics. He wanted to play Beethoven, Chopin, you name it. And that was not me pushing him, which was fantastic. And then he was struck by a boat on Thanksgiving 2019 and lost his right arm and almost both legs. And so that was, as you can imagine, it was something that no parent ever wants to go through.
No, that must have been. And I know you don't live close.
No.
So to get that news from, still within the United States, but not close, must have been devastating.
It was. And we scrambled to find a flight. We got on one that night and saw him. And we were, of course, devastated. And then I was puzzled because his left hand was also in a huge bandage. And wait a minute, no one told us about that. And what happened was a blade of the boat struck his hand and the surgeon took a picture of it because the blade missed a major nerve by 1 millimeter.
Oh my goodness.
And so Carter's left hand is in perfect shape. I cannot believe it. And he is left hand dominant and he plays piano with his left hand only. And he is back playing every day. In fact, he's booked for a boating safety summit. They've got conferences for that too. And they asked him to come and play piano.
Fabulous.
Yes. So it was a coping mechanism for him too. And I remember my husband texting me the first time he got back on the piano. I was in Colorado. My husband was out there with him in Florida. And he texted me like, Carter's playing the piano. Oh. So that was a huge moment for him.
You choke up a little bit when you hear stories like this where someone has overcome such a devastating loss. Did he find that it was an immediate, I can go back and piano is going to be, or music is going to be something that helps me through this journey, or what I need right now in my recovery?
Yeah.
Or did he find it was difficult without use of both?
I don't think your mind knows necessarily like, oh, I need this. But he obviously was drawn to it because he had just gotten a new keyboard. I had helped him invest in a new keyboard. And so I knew, he liked that piano. And so here's the deal. Music is a magnet. And if it's part of you, it is going to draw you back. And I'm sure, I'm maybe putting words in his mouth, but I'm sure he felt the same thing that I did. Like, I have to go play. And there's something about that tactile, tangible feeling of playing that is unspeakable. You can't, I don't know. And so I think once you take it away, that's when you realize how important it is. So it was fascinating to see him choose repertoire, because the very first thing he played was a beautiful piece by Daniel Light, a colleague and composer and arranger of mine. And he played a piece, It Is Well, with my soul, which I had a hard time hearing him play that, but he played it beautifully. And then he took a Bach cello prelude, which was beautiful. That worked well with the left hand, but now he's taken a lot of his two-handed repertoire and changing it into one. And I think his biggest challenge was the Scriabin left-hand nocturne, which is incredible. I never knew that piece. I'm like, really?
Beautiful piece.
Yes. Yeah. And so, for some reason, I don't know. I have yet to find out exactly why he was drawn back to it, but it's the magnetic power of music.
It is powerful. And once it touches you, it's like you said, you come back to it because you just, because you need it, because your soul needs it.
Right.
And so that's a beautiful gift that you were also able to give him.
Yeah. And I did, you know what? Okay. Maybe it was a ripple effect, but I feel like that was his thing. I didn't give it to him. Maybe I gave him, they all had to play piano. My husband played piano till 8th grade. That was the rule in his family.
Okay.
So we kind of like, okay, let's do the same thing with our boys. I didn't want to push music on them. And I think that has been a good thing because they have all come to it in their own way as adults.
Well, and you say, I didn't give it to them. You created an environment.
There you go. Yeah.
Where, if nothing else, they hear music every day.
Right.
And can appreciate that and develop their own internal love.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, whether it's Bach or pop music, you were able to give them that experience so that they could find what it was that they needed in the time that they needed it. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I do want to go back a little bit to the work you're doing now, because you are offering a lot of online tools for teachers. I'm really curious about your symposiums here.
We have to talk about that. Yes.
Yes. So can you tell me about the work you're doing now with other teachers around the world?
Well, I think it comes down to the fact that making music was so important to me. And I am not a published composer or arranger, but I started arranging a lot of things myself. And I loved that. The world faded away when I was working on that project. I'm like, this is feeding my soul. I wonder if other people need to have this too. And so, and then I also created something called cookie cutter composing, which was helping my students compose. And we did 8 bars at a time. So we did, section A, then section B, section A, and it was very rigid, some people would call it.
Yes.
But we were very successful with it. And it just happened to come out right before the accident. And then COVID happened. And so I did this with all my students online. And it was perfect. We used Note Flight so I could see their accounts, all that kind of stuff. So it was, it really helped us all get through a rough time because we could at least do that creating, they could play piano. But then I sold that resource, but I noticed that people still had questions on it. Teachers were like, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I thought, you know what? I wonder if I need to have some kind of workshop that could help teachers go through the process. And that I don't know when the word composium came to my head, but like, ooh,
I love it though.
I like that one. And so I had that feeling of, you know what? If I build it, maybe they'll come. And I was also inspired by my mother. She is a retired art professor. She's a quilter, nationally known quilter. Her quilts are all over the nation in different galleries. And we're not talking about just patch work. We're talking about abstract, and they're marvelous. They're just absolutely gorgeous.
To check that out.
Yes. But I was always envious of her because she would go to her quilting workshops. And you bring your sewing machine, you bring your fabric, and you sew with all your other friends. And then you look over their shoulders and see what they're doing. And I thought, now, wouldn't that be nice if I could do that with a group of teachers so that we're all in this atmosphere of, oh, what are you doing? Oh, that's cool. Oh, I like that idea. And so that brought me to this idea of, well, let's have 8 teachers and we'll do 8 bars at a time, that kind of a thing. So we'll piece together, just like we piece a quilt together, we'll piece together a piece. And now I'm down to 6 teachers because that was a little bit much. And I have changed maybe a little bit of the format, but it's a little bit of a piece every time. And then people come, they show us what they're doing. It's a very safe environment because I lay down really strict ground rules about how we give feedback. We don't give feedback, we give feed forward.
Yes.
Those kind of things so that people can feel comfortable and feel safe. Because I always, when we first listen to a piece, I always tell them that, doesn't it kind of feel like someone's peeking in your underwear drawer? Because it is. It's like, you're being very vulnerable, right?
It does take a lot of
it
courage.
Does. It takes courage. And so I do a lot of mindset things, all those kind of things, just to get them in the right place. But what was fun is that I found that I did a 4-week course and then people would sign up for another one. I thought it would be a one and done thing. And so now this year I created a membership, which I've never been fond of, but I'm going to try it out. But it's called Space to Create. And I found that 9 teachers were interested, and now they get to come to a number of composiums. We have creative abrasions where we meet and talk about creativity, or if they're stuck on, notating rhythm, or it's a lot. Sometimes I'm just using a lot of good pedagogy, like some people are just missing some of the, the things that they could use in their back pocket as far as tools go. So, and they get access to my full scoop on chords, which I wrote that out of necessity too, because people need to know their chords.
Yes.
And then I also, they have access to something called Jump Starts, which I just started this year too, which is a monthly, it's just a packet that you can use with students or even yourself on getting yourself creative using some functional skills like lead sheets, free improvisation. So I'm trying that out, seeing how it goes. And, if you don't try, you'll never know.
And I think I'm seeing this theme of just, let's just do this.
Yeah.
Let's try this, whether it was learning how to play with your church and going, oh my gosh, but we're going to just do this, and the 88 keys and working with your students through the pandemic and with the composition. So it's that innovation and that spirit of innovation that is just so powerful in you. You mentioned that you had your students work 8 measures, ABA, and the rigidity of that. And yes, I agree. But also, do you find when you let go of the parameters that there's too much freedom, that rigidity is something that is necessary?
Right. In fact, I love to say you blossom within boundaries. And when you have boundaries, you're going to feel safe. And so one of my boundaries that I give people is to borrow other people's things. If you like that chord progression, go ahead and use it. And I do that a lot. I'll listen to something like, ooh, I like that. And then I go and noodle around with it. And then suddenly it's not theirs anymore. It's mine because I've changed it somewhat. Yeah. But if you don't have something to start with, and what I mean by boundaries is a chord progression or, a rhythm, a form. Exactly. And my jump starts, I have 2 kinds. I have boundary based and then soundscapes, because I want people to have that ability too of like sitting down and like, let's just see what happens. But in the soundscapes, I give patterns.
Okay.
So, try this pattern, and make sure you end on A, because that's our tonic, because I was in minor. So I give some still kind of strong parameters, but it's still that freedom to explore. So I try and do a mix. And lead sheets, some people say, well, how can that be creative? Well, you got to choose your left hand. There's always creative decisions to be made along the way.
Yes. Whether it's Bach.
Exactly. Yes.
Or pop. Well, excellent. Thank you so much for all of your time. We do always end our podcast with one question, because we are the Piano Inspires podcast.
Okay, yes.
So how does piano inspire you?
Piano is my conduit to music. And if that piano wasn't there, I wouldn't know how to reach that music. And so, hopefully that answers your question. But there's just nothing more that's more inspirational to me than making music. And I will do so for the rest of my life. And I want to pass along that passion to everyone else too.
Well, you're doing a fabulous job of that. So thank you for all the work you are doing for our profession and for having this conversation with me today. I've learned so much.
Well, thank you, Andrea. This was wonderful being asked. And thank you for the conversation.
Thank you.
The Francis Clark Center is a not-for-profit educational organization that serves the advancement of piano teaching, learning, and performing. Divisions include Piano Magazine, Piano Inspires Kids, Journal for Piano Research, National Conference on Keyboard Pedagogy, the New School for Music Study, Piano Education Press, International Online Teacher Education, and Piano Inspires Online Community Hub. Please visit us at pianoinspires.com to learn more about our impactful work and inspiring community.